Welcome to the 20th video in this series making a top-down 2D racer in Godot. So the previous video, we made quite a big step. I don't know if between that one and this one you've been doing a little bit of playing around with it. I have, and the behavior actually, especially with the curve on the track processor, is pretty good, breaking into and accelerating out of corners. And I certainly found once you start tweaking some of the speeds and things of the CPU cars, you already get some pretty good looking gameplay. And I would say if you didn't know any better, so if you hadn't coded the game, the AI doesn't look too bad already. Nevertheless, it does become noticeable, I think anyway, that it's following a path around the track. So in this lesson, what we're going to do is attempt to get them to deviate from the path, which later on will have it adjustable also by their skill. So higher skill will be nearer the ideal line, and those with lower skill, you could put them really fast, but they'll be more likely to go to the edges and maybe crash into the walls. Now, I'll say in advance, this one is a little bit of art as much as it is science. So we will add a couple of parameters that we can customize per track so that we can then watch them going round and make sure that things are working as we expect. Before we do it though, let's have, yes, another quick explanation of how this one's going to work, because there is a bit of code to it. So where shall we go for an example? I'll go for an example here. So we have a waypoint, let's say here. And as you know, we have a collider on either side going to the right and the left. So what we're going to do from our track processor is add another function onto our waypoints, which look at the colliding distance for each of these raycasts. Now in the track processor, we're going to have to add another physics frame waiting actually to allow Godot's physics server time to calculate actually all of these. It needs a couple of frames to do it. So we'll need to remember to add that in, otherwise this won't work. But what we will do is calculate for the left and the right this delta. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set, and that's going to be this parameter that we're going to set for each individual track on the track processor. We're going to set a maximum deviation that we're going to allow in pixels, basically, to the left and the right. Then when the car comes along and it actually comes into setting its next waypoint, it itself is actually going to have a deviation number on it. Now, for now, we'll hard code that so we can test things out. But when the AI is finally done, it's going to have a deviation weight that is constantly being updated and has a range that it can update in depending on its skill. So let's imagine it has a deviation weight of 0.5 coming into the waypoint. If it does, the number being greater than 0 means it's going to deviate to the right. And it's going to deviate, in this case, to the right by half of the distance to the max. And that'll either be a collision or it'll be the maximum that we've set. Now we are going to add a tiny buffer onto the collision as well, so it won't be right up against the edge of the track. Otherwise, when we get deviations of 0.9 and stuff, it always crashes at every single waypoint, which we don't want. And this point that it actually gets will be its target. So if it's got a 0.5 deviation, it's going to aim here rather than here. And then when it comes to the next waypoint, the same thing is going to be done. So again, on that particular waypoint, we'll have our distances calculated and we'll configure eventually the cars such that they can't suddenly jump their deviations into minus numbers. If they were plus, they're going to be able to drift every few seconds, basically. So now it might be at 0.4, let's say. So now it's going to take 0.4 of this distance here and probably have a target around here. The upshot will be it will take a much wider line around this corner than it needs to. And as I've said, the amount that we can deviate between -1 and 1 will depend on the skill of the car. So if you have a really low-skilled car, you might end up with it taking a racing line that's looking something a little bit like this. And if things are configured correctly, as I said, it's a bit more of an art than a science. Now and again, especially around tight corners, they will hit the inside of the corner and have a nice spin, which I think adds a nice effect. You don't want them crashing too much, but crashing now and again I think is quite good. So to implement this, we do have a couple of things to think about. Let me clear off the lines because it's a little bit difficult to read. The main thing actually to think about is actually the calculation of the collision distance and actually the offset. So I think it's fairly straightforward so far to understand, okay, we're going to pick a value that's in the middle of this line, but we have to set that as our target for the car, and that has to be rotated with the waypoint. So what I mean by that, if I make, say, a straight waypoint like this, and we come into this waypoint and we set our target instead here, well, that target is the waypoint's global position, and we're simply going down by that amount in the Y. That's fairly straightforward. Where it's not so straightforward is when waypoints are rotated. So we need to bear that one in mind as well, but you'll obviously see in the code how to do that. So what we're going to do in this particular video is we're going to get as far as we've got this set up, and then we'll hard code some weights into a car and just check how it follows basically around the track and see if it does deviate correctly from the racing line. So let's go into the Godot IDE. So back in the Godot IDE, I'll go to the track processor here, open up the track processor's script. And we're going to want to make this maximum deviation value, and it needs to be tunable by track because, for example, I think Monza is quite a bit narrower than the others. So we'll do max deviation. And maybe actually we call this path deviation, so we know actually what we're talking about here, Richard, otherwise you'll forget later on. And we'll set this to, 75 actually is probably an ideal value to start with. Now we need to set up the waypoints to be able to use this deviation. So I'm going to open up the waypoint in the waypoint script, which is here. Let's scroll up to the top of the script. And we're going to want to set some variables here. So we'll set ourselves with the left collision distance. So that's going to be the distance that it actually has to its left-hand side collision. We've got the left collision and the right collision here with these ray casts. Then we're going to do a right collision distance as well. And then we're going to also have the direction as well. So I'm going to copy the left here, and this is going to be left collision, and I'll say dir for direction. And this is actually going to be a vector too. This only needs setting once actually, but this is going to be set according to the rotation that this particular waypoint has. You'll see how we'll do that in a moment. And then we can also do the right collision direction as well. We need this to know which direction we need to go in when we go away from our waypoint by the certain deviation. Now I'm aware that I'm labouring the point a little bit here, but it's important to understand what's going on. So if we have, say, a waypoint here, and we've got our collision, and we're going on the left with the deviation, the left direction is this direction here, including the rotation. So when we've got a deviation of, say, 50 pixels, we will go 50 pixels in this direction. And that's what we're setting up this left or right collision directions for, so that we know which direction we actually need to go in, because obviously we're not going to be perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical. And then finally, what we'll do as well, if I go back to track processor, I'm going to be very naughty and copy that there just to save a little bit of typing. Go back into waypoint, and at the bottom here, we'll do underscore max path deviation, which is a float, and that can be set to 75. This will be set from the track processor so that we can tweak it by individual track. Okay then, so let's write ourselves a function that actually sets up and calculates all this data for us. So we're going to write a new function that's going to be called set collider data, that's going to take in this max path deviation. So we'll already set that up here. So our max path deviation, it's going to be equal to, and although in my prep I had max deviation, I'm going to make that actually max path deviation, because this, I think, could do with being as clear as possible. Now what we can do is we can get our left and right collision distances. So we have our right collision and our left collision here. They're our ray casts. I want to check that we actually have those. Do we? Yes, we do. Left and right collision, they're at the top there. So I'll scroll down. So we can say then that our left collision distance is equal to our left collision dot target position dot length. And I'll go into distraction free mode. This at the moment is being set to the length of the ray cast. I know we're about to adjust that for the collision, but we're going to give it initially a default value, which is its actual length. So we'll set this also for the right collision distance here, and that can then be the right collision and target position and length. Now, before we do anything else, I think it might be a good idea, seeing as we are printing our waypoints out, to actually print this information out as well, so we can verify that the numbers look okay. So I'm going to do LCD down here, and we can also do %2f as well. And we can do the same also for our right collision distance. And then drop these into here. Do Control S to save. And what we want to do is invoke this set collider data from our track processor. So I'll come out of distraction free mode so you can see where I'm going. So the track processor here, going to the track processor. What we'll do is, where should we do this? So after the calculating of the radius, what we're going to do is we're going to await another physics frame here. And then above here, below the generate waypoints actually, we'll write ourselves a new function called setup waypoint collisions. Then in here we can iterate through our waypoints. And for each waypoint, we can invoke then set collider data, and we'll send in then our max path deviation. And then finally, at the end of all this, we print them out, but we should invoke this, and I should also spell setup correctly as well, I think. So I'll drop that in here. Control S to save. So what we can do is we can run the application, and it crashes. That's interesting. What's it saying here? Cannot call method sample on null value. Sample on radius curve is null. Is it? Really? Really? Yes, apparently it is. How can the curve be null? That's interesting. What have I messed up that you're shouting at the screen saying you've made a mess? Have we got a radius curve on track processor? Yes. And we see one in the inspector? Yes. What's going on here? Set radius factor? Yes. What about track? No. How has that happened? Maybe that's happened to you as well, but I'm pretty sure I've been using the track processor from here. I said, why is it cleared out from here? Okay, I'll reset that so we've got a curve. Does it now run? Yes, it does. Okay, so let's have a look at the values. We should see 150 for all of the values here for the collision distance, because at the moment we're just getting the distance of the raycast, not the actual distance to its nearest collision. That's what we're about to do, but I want to check that that value was correct, and it is, apart from null radius curves. So I'll press stop, close that down, close down the output, go back into the track processor. And actually we need to be in the waypoint here, sorry, don't we? So what we'll do at the top here is we're going to set a little bit of a collision margin here, just a tiny one, so that we don't end up, if we're a really low skill car and we end up with max deviation, always colliding into the wall. So I'm going to set that to 10 pixels. We might need to tune that a little bit, we'll see, but we'll always have this margin from the edge. So I'll scroll down. Now we can set these up properly. So the first thing to do is ask ourselves, is the left collision actually colliding? So if left collision dot and is colliding, if it's colliding, we can get its collision point. So we'll say var, and I'll do colp for collision point. Hopefully that's okay for you to understand. Vector2, and that's equal then to the left collision dot and get collision point. So we have a vector2 now, which is where this particular one is colliding. So it's simple now to set up the distance. We can say the left collision distance is equal to our global position dot distance to colp. And I'll go also into distraction-free mode. I think it's a bit easier to see. And then we'll subtract from this particular distance also our collision margin. Now, it might be after subtracting the collision margin that we have a negative value, which we don't want in that case. So we'll say then that our left collision distance is equal to the maximum value of 0 and our left collision distance. So that one should set up our left collision distance, and then we can do exactly the same thing. And this is dangerous, but I'm going to do this also for the right collision as well. So if the right collision is colliding, then we want to get the distance, which is the right collision. Then we can set up the right collision distance to be our distance to the collision point. And then we can also reduce that, so it's either 0 or something that's above 0, but should be then between our collision margin. Okay, so with that done, let's run the application again and see if we have, yes we do, more sensible looking values. I'm looking here for any minuses. There shouldn't be any minuses inside here, but what we should have is, yeah, we've got 150 there, so the absolute maximum distance on number 4 there actually. And that looks very interesting there. So what I'm going to do is turn on actually collision shapes and paths. Let's have a look at that one again. What is number 4 doing here? Number 4 is indeed not colliding. Would you believe it? The collision shape doesn't go far enough here, so you can cut the corner, which is nice, but it's not actually colliding. That's why it's worth checking these things. Number 7 as well, actually. Looks like it also, let me check number 7. Does that also have a 150? Yes, it does, on the right-hand side. That's also correct. That's good. Verification of numbers. They do actually look correct, which is good. I'd like to find one. Here's a good one. Number 20. So the left is shorter and the right is longer. Where are you? Number 20. There you are. Yeah, the left is definitely really short there and the right is a lot longer. That looks pretty sensible for me. We'll soon find out when we try to debug it, but that for now looks all right. So I'm going to press F8 to close that down, close down the output. Next, what we need to do is we need to set up these directions that we had. So at the top here, we had the left collision direction and the right collision direction. These only need setting once in here. So we can say the left collision direction is equal to, and what we do is we take a vector2 dot left, which is pointing to the left, and then rotate that via our rotation. So rotated through an angle, which is our current rotation. So a left vector, if I hover over that, is a -1 by 0. So we're taking that vector, if you imagine it facing in the -1, and then we're simply rotating it by our current rotation. And what that should do is have the effect of facing in the direction of the left collider, if you like. Come to think of it, we could also take the direction of the collider itself. I did it like this in the preparation. I hope that's okay with you. So what we can also do then is we can take the right collision direction, and this is then a vector2.right, and rotate it through our rotation. Okay, so that's step 1 of 2 steps complete. Now what we need to do is we need to be able to get the target adjusted according to a bit of deviation from our paths. We've set up the distances here. We have our own global position. Now we want to interpolate between 0 and whatever that distance is based on our weight, and make sure that we go in the correct direction as well, so that we return a position as our target that is not necessarily our global position. So we shall call this function getTargetAdjusted, and that's going to take in this weight. That will be something between -1 and 1. A skilled car will have near 0. A non-skilled car will have anything between that kind of range. The first thing to do here is, if we have something that's 0 approx for our weight, because it's a float, we'll use 0 approx, then we'll simply just return our global position. Otherwise, we need to know whether we're going to the right or the left. So if the weight that we have then is greater than 0.0, we're going to the right. So we'll say then that our deviation, which is a float, is equal to the weight that we have multiplied by our right collision distance. And we have a max deviation setting as well. So what we're going to do is clamp this deviation according to that max deviation setting. So we'll do clamp F, then our deviation, and we can do minus our max deviation and plus. And finally, what we can do here is return for our rotation in the right direction, and that should give us our target point. So we'll return our right collision direction multiplied by our deviation plus our current global position, and that should be then offset in the direction that we need to rotate. Otherwise, we do everything else in the other direction. So we'll do an else, then I'll copy and paste this code here and hope that I don't make some kind of mistake. So this one here has got to be left. Then here we've got, that's the same line. And then we've got here the left collision direction. And otherwise everything's the same. So we should, when we invoke this, from inside our CPU car, now get a target adjusted according to a weight. Except we won't get that, will we? Because I've realized here, we're going to the right effectively, aren't we? Because we're adding to the global position. We don't want that, do we? We want global position, subtract left collision direction, multiplied by the deviation. Okay, so next step then is to actually drop into the CPU car.gd. And inside here, we have this, we have an adjusted waypoint target here, which has been sitting there doing nothing, but now it's been called into action. So what we'll do here is we'll get a hold of our adjusted waypoint target, and that's going to be equal to our waypoint dot, and we can get the target adjusted. And let's put to start with a weight of minus 0.5. So we should be halfway to the left with a little bit of margin going up to our maximum, and we can comment this line out as well. And next, what I'd like to do actually is come out of distraction-free mode. Then I'm going to search for the track scene here. Now this is going to break the track. Well, not break it, but what I'd like to do is remove all of the cars out of here apart from the first one. And we can always add them back in later. Control S to save. I'm going to go and have a look at Monaco. We have a CPU car. More importantly, do we have a curve? Yes, we do. Good. So I'll run the application and let's see what happens here. Okay, that's not working brilliantly, is it? The first few were okay. I did see. Okay, I can see what's happening. It's got stuck basically on the corner. Let's see if it actually gets free of the corner. It might do. You never know. It might be lucky. But clearly, I need a little bit. Okay, it's now got free. Is it going to crash again on this one? Yes. Okay, so it needs a little bit more of a buffer. But what we can clearly see is that it is actually halfway to the collisions. It's just having a little bit of a problem around hairpins. Hairpins are always a bit of a pain. So I'll press F8 to close that down. Close down the output. What we probably need to do is either increase the margin from the edges or decrease the max path deviation here, but I'm not sure what kind of deviation we actually had there. If we go into the waypoint.gd, we're on the minus side here. I'm actually going to very, very temporarily add a print here and have a look at the deviation that we had there. And I appreciate I'm using your time to do this, and I could debug this off screen, but let's have a quick look anyway. Let's have a look what kind of deviation we have here. Okay, so we got the deviation minus 75. Instantly here. So it's really a matter of adjusting this a little bit as per track as well. So if I set the max path deviation down to 50, let's say here, and run the application again and press S, let's have a look what happens now. Okay, so we get nicely around the corner and around that one as well. And that's looking quite a bit better actually. We've still got some crashes going on as well. If we get around this time. Yes, we do. The deviations are working quite nicely there actually. We will still, in tight corners, now and again rub up against the wall, particularly if we have something that's worse than 0.5. And in fact, I'm going to do that. Let's go to the CPU car. Let's put it at something extreme. So this would be for a really low-skilled car. So this will crash a lot, I guess, but it doesn't matter if it does. Wow, it's still managing to get around just about without... Wow, it's close, isn't it? Just about without crashing. There we go. It's crashed, which I think is quite good for the way the games play as well. Ah, that's really playing nicely, actually, with the deviations. Let's let it go around a little bit more. Ah, it crashed there as well. That's good. Okay, I think actually that looks pretty cool. So let's check it out the other way. I'll press F8 to close that down and then make this now a plus instead of a minus. So delete the minus and I'll do F5 to run it again. Let's see what happens with you this time. To go the other side. Yes, do we get stuck here? Wow, no. That's looking pretty good. That's actually worked out far better, I have to say, than I thought it was going to work out. And yeah, it's looking really good. So what we'll do eventually with the AI, according to skill, is they will randomly sort of drift between whatever range they're allowed to drift, depending on their skill. All right then, so I'll press F8 to close that down, close down the output. If you're still with me after that one, really, really well done, because things did get a little bit into the weeds there, but I'm hoping now with the curves and things like that, that you can see that we can, with relatively little effort, start to get a reasonable looking AI. What we're going to do now in the next video is kind of tie all this together, and it's quite straightforward actually. We're going to add in a skill parameter, and we're going to use that to drift the speed and drift the deviations from the track and things like that. So I'll see you for that in the next video.